If you think about what happened with Snowden, all of this stuff that used to be conspiracy theory is now matter record fact, right? Nobody has any doubt at all that this stuff is happening. We know it for sure. That's an unbelievably huge step forward. Same thing with Bitcoin. It's the first time in my lifetime that I've seen activists with any money at all. Right? They've proven that they have an economic structure which is capable of supporting them, and that allows them to grow and extend. The 50, 100, 200 projects that have been financed by people's winnings from Bitcoin is a huge wavefront of progress. You know, if the question is why is there no progress, I think there is progress. The question is why haven't we won yet? It's because there are 1 million of us and 7 billion of them. What we were building is institutions. So in the 1960s, most of the energy went into protest, and protest was fundamentally ineffective. What they didn't do was build alternate institutions. There were no banks, there were no universities, there were no, you know, really heavyweight, durable social structures that came out of these movements. All of the energy went into trying to change the system rather than trying to build alternatives. And what the Bitcoin folks have gotten right is they've built an alternative that actually does something important, and then they're supporting the alternative and extending from it. So, you know, if you think about the total impact of the 60s movements, where is a single thing they built which is equivalent in utility to Bitcoin? I can't think of anything. They protested, but they did not create. How long before Elon Musk is opening Mars base? 15 years? 10? So, you know, within the course of your lifetime, by the time you're my age, what you're going to be existing in is a world where we've got, you know, the debate about whether people's kids are going to go to Mars, and these vast, kind of overeducated solar utopias where people who grow vegetables for a living are getting PhDs in medieval French literature. Right? And this is what the technology has enabled. All we have to do is stop the politicians from screwing it up before the engineers can deliver the utopia that we've all been working towards. That's where we are.
It's the endless struggle.
Yeah, it really is.
Sounds fun.
Engineers versus thugs, right? And that goes back to the first, you know, the first making of tools, right? Somebody's got to figure out how to harden the piece of wood in the fire to make a spear. That guy's usually not the person that can go and hurt the buffalo pest. But at the end of the day, nearly all of the quality of life improvements that we've seen as a species come from the nerds rather than the jocks. And it's really time for the planetary kind of power balance to just flip. Right, you guys are really aggressive, you're not very good at cooperation, we'd like you all to please go away, we're just going to be over here building the global network, building the spaceships. When we get to Mars, you can have a spacesuit, you could go outside and fix the antenna. Not sure you should put that in the interview, but if you do, that's fine with me. Right? But this is the power balance shift that has to happen, because, you know, the basically aggressive male personality type is good at dividing up scarcity, and it's good at moving scarcity around. It's absolutely useless at ending scarcity. You want the scarcity ended, you have to go to nerds. The nerds will sit down and figure out how to make more of something from whatever you have around, and that has the potential to be a long-term solution. And that shift of power balance inside of your kind of male archetype, from the warriors to the engineers, from Ares to Hephaestus, this is the pivot that we're sitting on. Because we're at the point where more war cannot solve the world's problems, and the people that are good at war are not going to offer any more solutions. So you have to look at the people that are able to make peace and make abundance, and that has never been the warrior caste. Well, cryptography is a real powerful tool, right? In the hands of the state, it allows them to keep their secrets. In the hands of business, it creates the ability to trade with things like credit cards online. In the hands of activists, it turns into security and privacy for activists. The financial community, of course, cooks up Bitcoin, you know, crypto financial community. So my gut feeling is that we've overestimated how powerful cryptography is if the computers that you're running are not fully open source, end-to-end, auditable, transparent systems. So we've kind of overbuilt a little bit. You know, we're a little bit Wile E. Coyote right now, where we've gone right off the edge of the cliff and our feet are kind of flying in the air, because everybody's realised that we've got great cryptographic algorithms and no secure computers to run them on. And this is a huge problem, right? It's a real lifestyle problem. How can I use my algorithms if I can't trust the people that make my computer? Because it's coming from China, or it's running Windows, or whatever it happens to be.
The back end and all of that. All of that,
right? So, for me, the political kind of transformative power of cryptography has changed year by year, generation by generation. The cypherpunks in the 90s had a vision of how cryptography would change the world that basically suggested that secure email would change everything. They were wrong. Right? You go back another, you go forward another 10 years, HTTPS, e-commerce will change everything. Well, actually, they were kind of right, but not in a way that anybody really cares about. Right? We'd miss Amazon if it went away, but it's not the soul of life. You come forward to today, everybody thinks Bitcoin will change everything. Certainly a lot of stuff is getting done, but I think that overall, what we've seen over 25, 30 years is a continual overestimation of how important cryptography turns out to be relative to the cohesion and solidarity of movements. What really gets things done is large groups of people that make strong social agreements and keep them, and cryptography can support that. But I think we have to start thinking about writing code to support existing communities rather than deploying code as a kind of an immediate tech fix. You really need, strong social cohesion plus tools. The tools themselves don't really seem to have the power to make the change that we want to see. And what I would love to see is people working on their interpersonal skills and their political skills and their negotiation skills and their presence and awareness skills, so that we have a situation where we can build really strong social cohesion, which is the missing part of the puzzle for most of what we're trying to achieve in the world. We have the crypto, but you put the people using it in a room together and they cut each other to pieces. This is not a sustainable approach. We have to get better at working together before we can expect these tools to achieve the sort of social change that we want.
So is Bitcoin a neutral technology?
No, of course not, right? Bitcoin is a libertarian technology, right? And as a libertarian technology, it's got strong property rights, it's got anonymity, which is obviously very useful, when appropriately managed at a technical level. It's explicitly libertarian. The problem is, of course, that Bitcoin is embedded within an anarchist context. So you've got an open source code base with nobody really controlling it, no copyright. You have a sort of ability for anybody to pick up the code base and make changes and propagate them and see whether people will adopt. All of this is pure anarchist. There's no company that owns it, there's no property right to operate it. This is all in the interview that I did with Tomer. So we're continually trying to struggle with the fact that nobody owns Bitcoin, and if somebody did own Bitcoin, we'd be very unhappy with it. Right? So it's kind of libertarian within and anarchist without, and because of that gap, what we're discovering is that an entire generation of libertarians are finally getting to understand why anarchists have complained about libertarianism. Right? The foundation, oh my god, the foundation. Well, the foundation is just the formation of the state from anarchy. Everybody hates it. Of course everybody hates it, but this was always what anarchists said would happen if you had property rights. The cartelization of the miners into these huge blocks like Gcash, this is exactly what anarchists have always said to libertarians would happen if you had a free market. Of course you'll get cartels, they'll be terrible. So from my perspective, the deep learning that's happening from Bitcoin is that libertarians are discovering that anarchists were correct and libertarians were wrong. And maybe when we finally get around to either fixing Bitcoin or replacing it, it will be a pure end-to-end anarchist system, rather than having this kind of libertarian vulnerability that's turning out to produce all the political problems in the Bitcoin ecology. The anarchists were right, and that is the great joy of Bitcoin. We finally did the experiment, and it has proven what we thought would not happen does.
I love the way you framed that, because if you think about it, making the statement that Bitcoin is politically neutral is a politically motivated statement in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can it be politically neutral? God.